MVP.
It's one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
You never get ahead of yourself. As
I know Randy do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 115. Al Ryan, Chris Guest, we are all here tonight. Before we get going, I do want to apologize to our loyal listeners. For those of you guys who download the audio podcast every week, we had a glitch last week. The database in StreamYard was full, and we were not able to download or upload the episode to audio. But if you want to listen to us rant about the Eagles' loss to the Atlanta Falcons, it is available on YouTube. So feel free to drop by there to listen to about an hour worth of ranting on Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, etc., etc. But we may have a little change in tune tonight. We're going to find out.
Why don't we do the studio audience? That we can
A live
we might as well do that.
A laugh track.
Just get everybody live in a studio somewhere.
All right. Well, Ernie, Frank, Diversa,
Whole gang.
Chris
Yeah.
Style, you
Well,
guys, come on down.
McCunny, he don't come back. McCunny don't come out anymore.
I got plenty of seating, guys.
Well, and there may be some people that are already behind Al's slim door of death.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Is the
gonna-
Saquon jersey still in there?
Yeah. No, I took it out after
I bet you did.
Oh.
now.
Yeah, I
before-
told you, I was ready to claim that when you
Yeah,
put it in there. I was ready.
Someone's
to take it.
performing in that offense, guest.
Before we get into the Eagles, I do want to give a shout out to our Philadelphia Phillies, who we have not talked about for a couple weeks now. They did clinch the NL East last night. So first division title since 2011 for those guys. If you were interested in some Phillies talk, we will be doing a full playoff preview next week. But so stay tuned for that. But shout out to the boys, man. They got the job done. It was kind of a little anticlimactic. It's been a couple months. It's kind of been locked up per se. There was a couple little bumps along the way, but overall, they ran that division from May until September.
Yeah, we were 26. Do you guys remember what that was like?
No.
That was- so, dude, that was so long ago.
20. I mean, I didn't know my wife yet.
Yeah, I was
I-
living in Conshohocken.
I hadn't even thought about. No, I don't want to say thought. I hadn't even rented a Sea Isle house yet, and that
Did podcasts exist? I don't think they did.
I don't know if they did either.
I don't think they did, dude.
I was in Conchi doing dubious activities.
What does that even mean?
I tell you what, the closet's there, and now these
Hey.
doors, those big thick doors.
Yeah, but yeah. So first division title since 2011.
Was Jelly's
How's it
Jeep
got-
still in use back then?
I was living with Jelly at the time in
The yellow
2011.
the yellow Jeep that was his, right? Or was that Jack's?
Yeah, the yellow
It was
Jeep.
Jelly's, right?
Yeah, the banana boat.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
a lot of action in that banana boat. For sure.
Yeah, well, hopefully the playoffs go a little better than 2011 did. We'll leave it at that. All right. Eagles bounce back victory over the New Orleans Saints, 15-12. It was a back and forth, emotional game. There were some ugly texts being sent early in the game, third quarter, and the game kind of flipped on its head. And then you guys got into it on the text, and I thought it might be a good way to start. Was this game, was it a good win for the Eagles, or was it more of what we saw last year where we're squeaking by? It doesn't look good. It's just kind of a, it's a win, but it's not anything to be impressed over. Let's start with, we'll start with Chris. Give us your thoughts on the game and what you thought.
I mean, obviously now 48 plus hours removed from it, the emotions are, a little bit back to in check, but
Don't be
I
shy.
thought-
Don't be bashful now, Chris.
no, I mean, I thought, first of all, I wasn't heated at all. I was just saying it is what it. I thought that it's funny how people want to bash a guy for not making the right throws, but then when he makes the right throw, he should have did the right. It was easy. He should have made that throw. So, I don't necessarily think that that's fair. I know, Al, you've talked before about, it wasn't like he led them down the field and had like completion after completion. I get that, but at the same time, if the Saints and I heard Ron Jaworski say this earlier, and I saw it when the game happened, and I was thinking the same thing, and I'm glad that he said it. I have no clue what the Saints were doing defensively, playing man in that down and that distance in part of that game. That made zero sense. So when those guys got mixed up because of the digs or whatever that we did on them in that play, that's on them. That has nothing to do with the Eagles, nothing to do with Jalen Hurts getting the easy pick. That's stupidity. And because of that alone, they deserve to lose that game.
They gift wrapped that drive the way we gift wrapped it to the Falcons the week before.
Correct. And that's what I said to you at the time. We should have won that game against Atlanta. We probably should have lost the game in New Orleans. And it evened out. And so therefore, I think they're genuinely a true 2-1 team. And I think that above all, I'm a glass half full guy, first and foremost. And hats off to the defense. Those guys stepped up. That's the first thing I would want to mention. The defense, Vic Fangio, getting those guys to look themselves in the mirror, check themselves, and say, you know what just happened on our field on Monday night is not going to happen again. Now, will it happen throughout the year in a different game, different situation? We'll see. But it didn't happen the next week. And I was on here last week saying, we're going to find out about this Eagles team. And if they show up defensively, that'll tell us a lot. If they don't, which I didn't expect them to be honest, based on what we saw last year at the end of it, then we know that this team is fugazi. They don't have heart. When they get slapped in the mouth, they back down, and they're going to run and hide. And they did the opposite of that. I thought that they really stepped up well throughout the game. That Saints offense, you could say what you want about Derek Carr and everybody, Kamara, those guys. They were, just rolling through people those first 2 weeks. And I know their opponents, and I get that. But the NFL is still the NFL. You still got to do your job. And they were doing their job and then some.
We're on the same page, Chris, with the defense. The defense,
yeah, they were the top. They were top of the league, and they came in there in their building, which is a really tough place to win a game on the road.
Yeah,
and they dominated the Saints. That game should have been. We should have had that game in hand way before that. Now
we'll get into that.
Right? But that game should have been in hand way before that. However, good teams find a way to still get it done. And thankfully, the Eagles showed us at the end of that game that maybe they are still the good team that we hope at least that they are.
All right, Al, hit me with your thoughts because you differ a little bit.
Yeah. So I agree with everything Chris said about the defense. I think Vic Fangio did a fantastic job of making adjustments as early as week 3. Kind of saw that some things weren't working against the Falcons. The way he was moving bodies in and out on the D-line and switching guys' roles and switching guys' positions. He lit a fire under Jalen Carter's ass because all of a sudden Jalen Carter looked like the Jalen Carter of last year in the first half.
He was a man in that game.
Absolute beast. Yeah. Zach Bond, once again, just all over the field, maximizing his talents. Secondary looked good. My boy, Ed Reed Blankenship with a game-sealing pick. The one play that he knows how to do is, jump on that.
Is every interception on repeat with him?
Dude, you know what he is? He is the Nick Castellanos of strong safeties. He has that one move. Like Castellanos has that one move in right field where he runs to the ball and slides on his ass to his left.
Dude, every pick looks like it's on repeat. The same spot, same dive.
That's his one move. But here's where we disagree, I think, vehemently, Chris, and it's with Justin Fields. Jalen Hurts.
Oh, now that's this dude.
Jalen Hurts has become a slower Justin Fields since signing his extension. I'm going to throw some numbers out there. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think Jalen Hurts is on the fast track to becoming just an average quarterback in the NFL. Number one, we had 0 points until the fourth quarter. And I know that we all agree that Nick Sirianni is the reason for us having at least not a few field goals by that time in the game. but you're asking your $250 million quarterback to put up a couple touchdowns on the board. You think he'd be able to? He was 28 for 37 with 250 yards passing, no touchdowns, one pick, and one fumble lost. If you take away that one pass to Dallas Goedert at the end of the game that, Chris, you even said it yourself, what was New Orleans doing running a man defense in that situation without A.J. Brown on the field, without Devontae Smith on the field, without Lane Johnson on the field, send a little bit of heat Hurts' way, right? A pass that, yes, can't take it away from that. He made the pass. He made the correct read. He was able to hit Goddard streaking over the middle wide open. But a pass that all 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL should be able to make, right? He calls. Now, I don't know if he called it, if Sirianni called it. There's mixed reactions. I don't know if our source could give us some information on this, but I'm hearing that he might have been the one that audible to that fake tush push. I don't know how true that is. Nick Sirianni
owned it and said he called it.
He's done that in the past. He's done that in the past where he's taken the heat for Hurts changing plays at the line, where it comes out that he didn't. Jalen Hurts has 27 turnovers since the start of 2023, which is the most in the NFL. He only threw the ball 10 times beyond 10 yards in that game. Now, that actually, I might credit Kellen Moore with that and trying to maximize what Jalen Hurts is able to do right now without A.J. Brown on the field. So that might actually be kind of like a nice job by the offensive coordinator. But finally, Chris, I want to hit you with this. We're big analytics guys on the pod. EPA, okay? EPA in the NFL is a way to grade players based on how many points they kind of contribute to the team based on their plays, but situationally. So, for instance, a Jalen Hurts 8-yard run in the first quarter, in the first play of the game, is not going to really be worth as much to a win as a Jalen Hurts run an 8-yard run in the fourth quarter to get a first down when they're down 3, right? I think we all might agree on that. He finished with an EPA of minus 4.7, meaning he actually lost points for the Eagles in that game. If you're a believer in the analytics. So I don't think Jalen Hurts had a good game. I think Jalen Hurts was saved and bailed out by his defense and by his running back, Saquon Barkley.
All right, let me voice. I thought about this long and hard, and I don't necessarily think it's a good win for the Eagles. I think it's a great win for the Eagles. The more and more I thought about it, as far as the team goes, this is a team who we know from last year has struggled with their confidence, has struggled with their ability to bounce back. And the way they lost that game against Atlanta to come back on a short week, to go on the road and to play a hard-fought game like they did, they outgained the Saints 460 to 219. They had 2 terrible turnovers, which I'll talk about in a minute, which can't happen. Chris, you mentioned it. They had 2 field goals that they should have taken. This game should have been 24 to 12. It shouldn't have been 15 to 12 at the end of the day. They outplayed them from start to finish. Again, they had the blocked punt, which we could talk about as well, which put the Saints back in the game, which was another bad play. It didn't feel like last year, because if you remember these games that last year that they were winning, they were getting outgained by 150 yards every game. And it felt like the opposite, where these other teams were making these mistakes down the stretch, and the Eagles just held on in the beginning of the year. And they had that drive at the end of the game that was 7-8 minutes. And they were beating teams like Minnesota, and they were beating teams like who else did they beat early in the year that wasn't that good last year? And they were just like Miami, they beat, who was okay. But there were a couple other teams that they should have been blowing out of the water.
Miami was a playoff team last year.
Miami's the best.
That's the last good win that Miami win.
It might have been. But to me, again, I think the defense showed a ton of life and a ton of bounce back, which we needed to see. Jalen Hurts out, it's easier for me to sit here and say Jalen did what he needed to do to win the game, because I've been the person that's bashed him the most on this. So my expectation for his level of play is not as high as you guys. But to Chris, what Chris has said is, at the end of the day, they gave him the ball with a chance to go win the game, and he went and won the game, regardless of whether it was a 60-yard pass or a 20-yard pass 3 times. He did what he needed to do to win that game. Now, the turnovers have to get corrected. Our guy Chris down here, who's been a Hurts guy forever, has also been anti-Josh Allen forever because of the amount of turnovers. And you said it yourself, since the beginning of last year, no quarterback in the NFL has turned the ball over more than Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. But for him to go win that game on Sunday without Devontae Smith, without A.J. Brown, without Lane Johnson, without Mekhi Becton, I got to give him his props. He did what he needed to do to get that W. And that's a huge mental win for this team, I would like to think, moving forward, because they needed to win this week or else next week was going to be staring them in the face and 1-3 was coming for them.
Guys, I think this win is the kind of win that can spawn them to a big, successful season. I think this kind of win is the kind of win that can override or right the ship from last year. Like, this is the game this was the reset game. Now that it's over and we've seen how they came out and they performed. I can't say, Al, I get the whole analytic thing, and it's got its place for certain things. But in the NFL and baseball, especially in any other sport, when you talk about these estimated or expected or whatever these stats are with all these acronyms and stuff, I can't do it. I can't do it. So your EPA, your expected points added, right? And so you're saying that certain plays are more valuable than others depending on where they are in the game and this and that. And I'm like, it doesn't take into account the most important thing, which is watching the damn game. When people have forgotten to watch games, and we just want to look at it and say, all right, here's our stats. Here's everything that happened. Let's put it in the computer, see what should happen. Like an EPA to me, that's like, okay, I finished a cheese sandwich at my lunch break yesterday in 4 minutes. All right. However, that is now my expectation on Tuesday to finish my sandwich as far as my time goes. But it doesn't take into account the extraneous things that can happen, like a kid coming into my class to ask me a question, me having to go to the bathroom and take a dump, one of my partners coming to me with a question or a comment or a conversation that can easily overthrow my expected time. Now, am I going to still finish that sandwich? Yes. Am I going to still enjoy the sandwich? Yes. So the value is it doesn't matter to me about how it gets done, when it gets done, why it gets done. The fact of the matter is it got done. And if I had told you before this game that with 2 turnovers and with those injuries, Seltzer, that you just said, and I said Jalen Hurts is going to throw for 311 yards in the Superdome, and the Eagles are going to have a shot to win this game, you would absolutely agree with me based on the yardage in that situation, right?
Chris,
hold on. So with that being said, if Mahomes or anybody, Josh Allen or any of those guys threw for 311 yards, all right, against that team on the road, you would be like, oh yeah, they're really doing it. That's why they're an elite quarterback. But when this guy does it, it's everybody else's failure around him as the reason why he was able to succeed. And he was terrible in the first half. Like, he was the whole team was terrible. I totally agree with that. But if you look at the second half over again, knowing what we know now of what's going to happen, who's going to come out the game, who's going to be like, I think he did a really good, like, it would have been easy to just fall apart and just look down the field for 1-2 seconds, freak out when the rush is coming in his face on 3rd and 16, throw the ball away, or do that stupid ass horizontal scramble that he does and then throws it away or forces it. He didn't. He stayed poised. He found the open man, and they went down the field and they won the game. And I think he deserves credit for that.
I agree with you in that you can't just take these analytics numbers at face value without using your eyes. But I think where we disagree is that my eyes are showing me are telling I'm seeing a different quarterback than you are. I'm seeing more of the guy we saw in the first half than what we saw in the second half, and it's happening more and more often where I'm seeing a guy who's turning the ball over in the red zone, who's not making reads, who's leaving the pocket early. That to me, I'm seeing more of that, and that's frustrating for me. Because I think Seltzer hit it correctly as well. Our expectations, you and me, Chris, our expectations are higher than Adams. And so I think I still have to temper my expectations a little bit. I'll end with this. I after the 48 hours, Chris, I agree. It was an important win. It was a gutsy win because of the way they had to end up winning that game, and they had to gut out a 3-point road win. But at the end of the day, I'm still overall macro unimpressed with Jalen Hurts in his last 12, 13 games as an NFL quarterback.
All right,
Well, let me say this.
All right, wrap it up. Go quick.
So I think it's also time to, and I'm guilty of this as well, saying that they were trash. I think it's time to look at Atlanta's defense too. Atlanta's defense last week, they did a great job against us in our building, and they just went the other day and played Mahomes and made him look very average. He had 217 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also turned the ball over against him. And I think that we're not giving them enough credit too for making Hurts look the way that he did. I've already said before at this point this year, I've said it last week, and I still believe it. He is not an elite quarterback, but I still think he's an above average quarterback. Remember, I said only half the league has a quarterback worth a damn. All right. And I'm going to actually make it 15 now after what I saw with Jacksonville yesterday, because I think Trevor Lawrence might be. I think that I might have been wrong and missed the boat on Trevor Lawrence.
He's
all right.
Did you see that post? His numbers and Mac Jones's numbers now?
No,
Dude, he hasn't won a game. He hasn't won a game since what? December or November?
Seltzer, no. Daniel Jones was last year. This year, it's Mac Jones.
Man, that's
him
rough.
and Mac Jones have similar numbers. It's wild.
Well, Dougie Peterson's definitely on the hot seat down there in Florida.
I think they're like 0-9 their last 9 games.
Yeah, he hasn't.
So my point in saying all that is there's not at that point now. I'm at 15 quarterbacks that are worth a damn in this league out of 32 teams, and 6 that are championship caliber.
The NFL
again, huh?
The NFL has an offense problem right now.
It had, well, I don't know if that's an offense problem. That's a quarterback problem for sure. There's a lot of elite receivers right now, ironically, but they can't get quarterbacks to get them the ball.
Yeah.
So.
All right,
I think Atlanta deserves credit, though. I think they might be a little bit better than we thought they would be. But with that being said, it's no excuse. Last week was still a poor outing. The turnovers got to stop. I agree with that. But I think, let's give my man a little bit of credit. He did have a second half and turned it around. He could have just went into a shell. He didn't.
All right, let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about the coaching before we talk about our predictions for this week. And I don't think there's any – we don't need to harp on whether or not we agree with the decisions that Nick Sirianni was making, because we're all on the same page there. So I have a question I want to ask you guys with his decision-making. Do you think – obviously his play calling responsibilities have been given to Kellen Moore. The defensive responsibilities have been given to Vic Fangio. Obviously he wasn't a huge part of the defense to begin with. Do you think some of this decision-making is Nick Sirianni was basically told that his job is game management, and now all of a sudden, because he has no offensive play calling responsibilities, he's trying to do too much? You know that feeling where you have all your responsibilities taken away from you, and you're all of a sudden like, I have to make an impact in this. So let's see how I can do it, whether it's trick plays or going outside the box. Because some of those decisions that he is making on the football field make zero sense at all. And that's the only thing that I can come up with, is he's trying to do too much.
Yeah, he's absolutely trying to prove himself. You can see it. There's no rhyme or reason. When they asked him in the press conference yesterday about it, he completely just ignored the question. He was an asshole to the reporters, cutting them off and saying, "Yeah, no, I knew what I was doing, this and that." Dude, at the end of the day, what's my man say, Chris? That Kendrick Lamar, what's he say? He's a fan. He's a fan. He's a fan. Nick Sirianni is a fan, dude. He's a fan. I have no time to talk about Nick Sirianni because he's simply a fan of the players around him, and he's just trying to gain back their respect, trying to gain back their confidence by trying to be Dan Campbell when he should just be Nick Sirianni and just do the things that got him here.
But Al, you know what? To even piggyback off that from you, what other head coach do you see in the NFL or any professional sport for that matter that does have the things he does, like going out into OTAs and training camp and wearing player shirts?
Yeah.
Wearing the Brandon Graham shirts or wearing this guy's shirt or that. He off the bat, when he came here, he was already trying to go above and beyond to earn that respect, because he knows a lot of those guys didn't respect him in the beginning as it was, and probably didn't respect him, especially after what happened last year. So I think that he goes above and beyond to definitely appear to the players to be a player coach. And I think that, he takes credit for the bad things and stays in the shadows for the good things, like a real leader should, and this and that. That's all well and good. But at the same time, this is professionals. This is the NFL. These guys are men. They're alpha men at that. They're millionaires at that. You can't I've given better speeches to my middle school team than this guy's doing for these grown men in this. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like a middle school or a high school coach, right? That's what I hear when I hear what he says to these guys. The whole with the flowers and all the analogies and this and that. Like that's a lot of like child's play, in my opinion. Win the games,
the cheese sandwiches,
yeah, all that.
I believe he opened
I just
up
brought a cheese sandwich analogy out a few minutes ago.
I believe he opened up his press conference by saying any mistake that a player makes on the field is my responsibility. And I don't, that makes zero sense at all. That to me is exactly what you guys are saying. That's a guy who's trying to make his players love him.
Exactly. He's going above and beyond to just make them just say, like, you know what? If I'm going to go out on the sword, my guys are going to be behind me.
Right.
And I just feel like, there's no the X's and O's from him is what I want to see. I want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about, well, sometimes when like things are happening, we need to water the plants and watch it grow. And come on, bro. Like these guys are, like I said, these are millionaire alpha males. They don't need to hear that. They know what their jobs are. And if they don't, then that's another issue, right? He was maniacal on Sunday. I mean, that's the only way I can think of. He was dangerous. Thankfully, again, those players stepped up defensively because that was weird.
Yeah,
we got the Ivanone brothers in the chat talking about Brad Childress being a possibility for the head coach position.
Brad Childress. Where's he? I don't even know. Is he still in the NFL anywhere?
I don't know. That's a name I haven't heard in years, man.
He coaching Our Lady of Lourdes.
All right. Let's look forward. We go to Tampa Bay this weekend. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites going into Tampa. So, Al, why don't you hit me with your Tampa Bay prediction?
Tampa's coming off an embarrassment of a loss to Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. So it's hard to have a lot of confidence in them right now. But the Eagles have injury problems. Adam, we got to get our man on the horn, and we need to find out who's playing, who's not playing. I have no idea. The Birds are 2.5-point favorites, but I'll tell you this. If the Eagles defense plays the way it did in New Orleans, then it's going to give Saquon enough of a chance to win another one for us. I think we'll be in good shape. However, Todd Bowles is going to blitz the hell out of Jalen Hurts again.
That's why we got to run.
I totally agree. I'm not sure how they're going to handle it. And I said it last week. I'm not going to pick this team again until they prove to me that I'm seeing a product on the field that is equivalent with great, with the expectation of winning 11 and 12 games like we predicted in the preseason. So I'm taking Tampa Bay in this game. I'm taking them 21-17.
So I just wanted to make it clear before we start. So far through 3 weeks, we are 1-8 with our Eagles predictions. I just want you guys to know that. We all lost the Green Bay game. We all lost the Atlanta game. I was the only one who had them beating the Saints last week.
So one of you take a win and one of you take a tie. So this way one of us gets it right.
I'll give mine and then we'll go to Chris. I'm on very much the same page as Al this week. My concern is the Devontae Smith injury, the A.J. Brown injury, and looking through the stats, Jalen Hurts has actually gotten better against the blitz when it's a 5-man blitz. He ranks number 8 this year in the going against a 5-man blitz. However, when it becomes a 6-man rush, he drops down to number 16 in the NFL as far as efficiency against the blitz. We know Todd Bowles blitzes like crazy, and the fact that they're going to be missing those two guys on the outside is going to make, I think, them blitz even more because they can cover the receivers on the outside one-on-one if they have to, or they can at least try to. I also think there'll be an additional focus on Saquon. I got Tampa Bay very close to you, Al. I got it 20-16 Tampa Bay this weekend against the Birds. And again, if the injuries are not as concerning or some of those guys come back, I might change that, but I see an L coming for the Birds.
Now, guess the last time we all bet against the Eagles, what happened? So you have a chance here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in jinxes and all that stuff, but I will say this. I think that we owe the Bucs one after last year. Again, this is another game where it's a revenge tour. It's like, what are you going to do about what happened to you previously? And last week, this team responded with it, right? They lost a heartbreaker on last Monday. They came back Sunday, did their thing, they won. Now they're playing a team that knocked them out, really embarrassed them in the playoffs last year. How are they going to respond? Are they going to go down there and just lay an egg and just still be riding that wave from New Orleans game? Or are they going to go forward and capitalize on taking that win from the Bucks? I think the Bucks are a little bit overrated right now, and I think last week proved it. It'll be tough if the receivers aren't playing. If AJ and Devontae both don't play, which hasn't been said yet, but if they both don't play, it'll be difficult. But you got to run. Honestly, if I was Kellen Moore, I'm running Saquon 30 times, and I'm not even joking.
Against Vita Vea?
I'm running him 30
might
times.
be out.
Oh,
Might be
That's
out
what I'm saying. All that being said, I'm running him 30 times in this game. I think the Eagles respond again. I think that, like I said, this last week was a big turning point for them. I'm going to say that they're going to win this game 25-16.
So Saquon Barkley is on pace for a lot of touches. I don't think it's sustainable, man. Like, I know you got to do what you got to do, but it's a rough way to win games, because what are you going to do later in the season when you need them?
They got the bye week coming up, so they can kind of refresh.
And that's part of why I'm saying too about the 30 carries, because I feel like the bye's coming up. You did Al say about Vita potentially not playing. That helps a lot. And again, if you don't have your weapons on the outside, we saw what Goddard did last week. They're going to game plan him. They're going to try to probably bracket him. All right. So if that's going to happen, you have to get Saquon either the ball rushing it or get him to the outside quickly for dump offs to beat the blitz. And either way, I'm giving him the rock 30 times in this game.
I want to real quick. Go ahead, Selzer. Go ahead.
No, I think the one thing we did not mention, though, is this will be the best pair of receivers that the Eagles have faced as far as a duo this season. So it'll be a test for the secondary, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Can I run us through a quick exercise? Now, I don't want explanation. Just give me an answer here. I want quarterback coaching combo. Would you take these quarterback coaching combos this season only in a straight up 2-for-2 swap with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni?
Quick hitters, guest. Quick hitters.
You ready for this? Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott.
No.
Yes.
Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers.
No.
No.
Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield.
No.
No.
Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray.
No.
No.
Mike McDonald and Geno Smith.
No.
No.
Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold.
Yes.
No. What?
Oh my God.
I think Kevin O'Connell. Remember, this is getting rid of Sirianni too. I'm not saying I'm taking Darnold for Hurts. I think Kevin O'Connell is a top 5 coach in the NFL, and Sam Darnold has outperformed Jalen Hurts so far this year. Has he not?
He absolutely
3 games, sure.
Absolutely has.
So I think Hurts is better than Darnold. I'm not saying that, but I think the upgrade from O'Connell to Sirianni is worth it in that regard.
And listen, also real quick on Darnold. For all we know, Darnold might be a late bloomer. Like, he was still a top, what was he, a number 2 or number 3 pick in the draft 6 years ago? Like, it wasn't like it was 10, 12, 15 years. Like, he's still in his 20s. He might be a late bloomer. We'll see.
I heard on a podcast, believe it or not, Sam Darnold is still younger than Joe Burrow.
He's one of those guys who was in shit positions, shit situations his whole career so far.
And Bill Belichick was on TV the other day, and he said the only people in the league that didn't like Sam Darnold was the Jets. And this is the guy who played against Sam Darnold a couple times a year. He said even when he went to Carolina, they liked him. Even when they went to he went to the Rams for a couple of years, they liked him. But he just wanted an opportunity to play, and he's found it. And
Frankie said Darnold is this year's Kurt Warner. The last one, guys, Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy.
Yes.
Don't you do it, guest. Be honest. Be honest. Be honest.
What was the question again? What?
Would you take them in a 1-for-1 swap just this season for Hurts and Sirianni? Shanahan and Purdy.
Yeah, I do that.
Well,
listen, you guys falsely,
I respect that.
Falsely declared me a homer. I told you I'm not a homer. I believe it or not, when I made those Philly predictions, with the exception of the one last year, the Phillies one, they happened. They were going to go to the Super Bowl. They did. The Phillies were going to go World Series. They did.
I
think you've had some other Philly predictions that haven't come true that we'll have to
you let me know
a little bit. But all right, good stuff there, Al. Let's go to our best bets for the week, and then I want to touch a little bit on the Sixers arena situation. So give me your best bet for week. Actually, I'll start it off this week. I'm going to go again in a matchup of the last two opponents that the Eagles have played. I've sat here on this podcast and I've said that I thought the Atlanta Falcons were an extremely underrated team, even though they're 1-2 now. I think they're, Chris, you mentioned that their defense is very good. I thought they put up a good fight against Kansas City, and Kansas City's got the refs in their pockets every week, so we know how that plays itself out. And I also tell you, the New Orleans Saints, they're overrated and they stink. So I got Atlanta -1.5 at home against the Saints. Give me Kirk Cousins leading the Falcons to take charge in that NFC South. Al?
Well, I'm 0-3, so I got to get off the schneid here. You got to zig when everyone zags, right? The Green Bay Packers are laying 2.5 at home to the undefeated Vikings that we've been talking about. I love this game for the Packers. Malik Willis is a magician extraordinaire. Minnesota's not going to go 17-0. Playing at Lambeau, NFC North divisional game, extremely tough sledding for Minnesota. I'm taking the Packers laying the 2.5.
Jordan Love may play as well.
I'm done. Well, then pound it.
I actually like that one as well. I think Minnesota falls there. Chris?
All right, I'm going to take the most unsexy game of the week. Tennessee -1.5 on the road at Miami. Without Tua, the Miami Dolphins are trash. And I'm not even saying Tua's that great, but he still at least can get the ball to the playmakers. They don't have a guy that's going to be able to get Waddle or Tyreek Hill the ball. And I don't think that's going to change this week either. Not that I'm a fan of Will Levis, but I will say I think that Skylar Thompson is barely a NFL caliber quarterback. And home, not home, in the parking lot, wherever you want to play it, I just don't like Miami without their true QB1. So I'm going to take the Titans -1.5 on the road.
I love when you get in the mud a little bit. I like getting in the mud.
Yeah, that's the mud, dude.
That's the mud.
That's the Paul Reed.
Dude, there's a lot of shit games though. I was afraid you were going to talk about like Cleveland and the Raiders or the Bengals and the Panthers.
Yeah, I like Washington again this week. There's a couple. The Ravens, I think Buffalo's due for a letdown on the road. I think that's a tough game for them.
Yo, you look at the schedule for the Washington Commanders, they might mess around and burlap sack the East this year, dude.
Oh, wait. I don't know about that.
You
but I will say, remember, I told you, though. I told you, Al. I said they were going to be all right.
I think I was on board, wasn't I? You guys tell me. I think
go back to the NFC East preview. I think I was down on Washington.
I was down on the Giants, but I think I was all right on Washington.
I said they were going to make it sticky, win like 8 or 9 games.
That's sticky.
But they're not going to win a division. But I mean, I think they're a tough team to play every week for whoever they got in front of them.
All right,
Aiden Daniels is nice. He's going to be good.
He showed out last night for sure.
He's going to be good.
All right, I want to touch briefly on the news on the Sixers last week. The mayor has come out and supported a new arena for them in downtown, down in Chinatown. It'll be 76th Place, I believe, is the proposed name for it at this point in time. So, Chris, if you remember, actually, we did a discussion on this on either the second or third episode of the podcast ever. And I will tell you this, my attitude towards the downtown arena has changed 100% flip-flop on it. So I'm curious as to where you stand, because there's a lot of pushback from the Philadelphia fans in regards to the Sixers getting this arena downtown. And I'm curious as to what you guys think about it.
I mean, just kind of going over this quickly, because otherwise I could be on this all day. This topic is really frustrating to me because, first of all, number one, the mayor supports the idea. It has still not been passed. I think people aren't really fully saying that. They still go through city council and stuff like that. And we know they got people in their pockets. So we'll see what happens. But assuming it gets done, I'm not a fan of it. As a season ticket holder, I mentioned to you the other day when we talked about it via text, and I said that, they had some kind of loose polls that they had amongst the season ticket holders. And it was to my understanding from my rep that 8 out of 10 people did not support the 76th Place location, myself included. I think that a city arena is really cool. I think it's good for the boost of different things, whether it's, city revenue or just getting attention on the city and things like that. But it's got to be done the right way. And I know that, we had talked before about cities like New York and Boston, other cities. And the main one obviously being New York City. New York City's culture is based around public transportation. There are people in New York City who do not drive, do not own a car because they don't need a car. They go through the train system, buses, cabs, Ubers, whatever the case may be. And even still, the Garden does have a third-party lot. It sounds like 76th Place. There's nothing that's been officially said about a specific lot. The only thing that's been said about parking is, well, there's various parking lots around the city that can cover excess of X amount of cars within a certain mile radius. And we've all been here and lived in this city for long enough to know that those lots are trash and they're not big and it's going to be an issue for a lot of people. And to make suburbanites travel from Jersey or from Delaware or from Monco or from even Delco and expect them when they're not used to traveling on public transportation to now have to do that is asking a lot. I'm retired from SEPTA. I've taken SEPTA for 25 years of my life. I'm retired from it. I don't plan on getting on another bus again for a lot of reasons. But there's people who, whether they are retired from it or just don't want to do it because of whatever reasons, that they are. I think they're underestimating the strong-willed people that are not going to subject themselves or their kids potentially to being on public transportation. Now, is that going to matter long term? Are they going to get enough people from the city to still go to these games? I mean, the majority of season ticket holders for the Sixers do live outside of Philadelphia. That is not that's a fact. All right. So that's the people that matter. Unfortunately, even if you live in the city and you want to say like, what's your arena and you want to be able to be proud of it, I get it. But the fact of the matter is most people at these games are not living in Philadelphia city limits.
All right.
So their opinion has to be taken into account.
Let me throw some counterpoints at you here. First of all, the thing you did say, and we both agree on, I was in Boston last week and I was walking through the city, and having an arena in the city, it's just awesome. The vibe is different. You mentioned Madison Square Garden. I get New York is a different beast among itself. But even just like walking through the city of Boston, then just having the Celtics arena right there, all the bars outside, I think it's a fantastic idea. And
so in Houston.
Houston's the same way. As far as transportation, I'm as anti-public transportation as anybody.
Have you been on a SEPTA bus?
Not in years. I don't even like taking the train anywhere. But at the end of the day, it's not easy for me to drive down to South Philly anyway. For a 7:00 game, it takes me an hour and a half. I have to imagine that if the Sixers are going through with this, there's going to be a proposal from the city to SEPTA saying, this is the additional revenue you're going to generate from this operation being in service. You are going to have to upgrade X, Y, and Z in order to make this work properly. And yeah, there's a fear of the unknown in everybody. How many of these guys, again, from Mako, from Villanova, from Wayne, who have season tickets, they haven't been on a train down to Center City because they drive everywhere. Guess what? If they can clean these things up a little bit, you get on the train one time. Oh, guess what? That wasn't so bad. And you get there, you get off at Jefferson Station. It's right there. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's the fear of the unknown that scares these people. And I just think a new arena that's going to have a lot of life to it. Hopefully the Sixers are good by then. We'll see as they kind of age themselves out. But let's be honest, like Wells Fargo's, the Sixers got squeezed out by them anyway. Like they were leasing out that arena. They weren't getting any of the things that they needed, and they pushed to get their own arena. I don't blame them.
I've been thinking about this, and Adam, I agree with you. People hate change. They hate the idea. They hate the idea of change. As a person who I've probably ridden the train, I think more than both of you guys have, because I took it every day to Carroll. Prior to high school, I used to take it just for leisure to go down to the gallery, now known as the Fashion District. So I've taken that ride from Overbrook to Center City. That's a major hub as far as trains coming in and out. So that infrastructure is already in place. Do they have to clean it up? Certainly they do, right? I think it's easy for us as suburbanites to hate this because yes, if now the main
current suburbanites,
if the main mode of transportation now is going to be public transportation, that's going to be something that we have to get used to. But Adam's right. It's a pain in the ass to get in and out of the sports complex when you're driving from where we live. I think that look, there's over 1.5 million people that live in the city of Philadelphia. Philly was able to clean up Fishtown. You go to Fishtown now, I mean, it's a hot spot, right?
Northern Liberties, all those, yeah.
If you give the city 7 years to clean that area up, to really build it up, put some bars, put some restaurants, put some high-rise condos, apartments, etc., parking, I think they're going to be able to pull it off. And I think in the long run, it's going to be much better for the city. Now, for us, dad fans that live in the burbs, it's not great for us. But I think long term for the Sixers, I can see this working out, and I can see this actually being a good change for them.
And like I do feel for the people in Chinatown. Like I understand how they're going to be affected. But what'd you say?
We didn't even get to that part yet.
But look, at the end of the day, Chris, it's the same. The people in King of Prussia, when they were building the town center, they didn't want anything to do with that because of the amount of traffic it would bring in and the additional people it was going to bring in. And like, it's a different thing. But at the end of the day, people were like, oh, the town center is pretty sweet. Like, it's pretty cool to have now that it's here. Again, I like the change is.
But that's an apples to oranges. That's an apples to oranges comparison. Chinatown is culturally has been there, and that group of people have been there for way longer than any of us have been there. And so to compare about the town center to King of Prussia in the suburbs is not even a fair.
Okay, it's a smaller version. I agree with you. But at the end of the day, they could also be bringing life to Chinatown and bringing business to Chinatown in that situation by being. When was the last time any of us were in Chinatown?
But it doesn't matter what we've been. It's about what happens. And what happens is people do go there, and the places that they are going to need to utilize for that space, a lot of them are going to be taken. They're going to be losing their spots or their lots in those businesses. And those places are businesses that have been passed down from generations. And I think that, of course, yeah, I agree. People don't like change. And I just want to make it clear. I support an arena in the city. I'm just saying it's got to be done right. And I think that from what I've heard with this specific proposal, I don't feel good about it because of the things that I've already mentioned. It's not that I'm stubborn to the change and I don't want it to be, and I'm married to South Philly. I don't care if it's at the complex or not. I really don't. I don't mind it there where it is in Center City. It just got to be done right. And the one thing that you haven't, I think that you're not really fully thinking about when you say, both of you, when you say about like the change element and the traffic element and the time it takes to leave the Wells Fargo Center parking lot or the Philly Stadium or Eagle Stadium, you're right. It can take a lot of time depending on the game and the situation. But people are waiting in that situation in a controlled environment in their vehicles. They're not waiting for it in the cold or in the snow or in the rain or in other kind of conditions or in a subway with strangers. They're doing it. It's a whole different environment. And so I think that even though for us as people that grew up in Philadelphia and have I went to Temple for 4 years. So like I literally went up and back on the Broad Street subway, traveled to the Market Frankfurt L, the whole thing. I get all that. But that's a lot to ask for people who haven't done that or have not been from those areas. And then when you're putting them in a position, and also one thing you said, Seltzer, they did try SEPTA. They did try to have an extension, a Monco line that would go through KOP to bring in a lot of people from Montgomery County and the edges of Delco from like Villanova and Radnor into the city, and taxpayers denied it in King of Prussia. So they have already tried it. And a big part of it is because if you notice the KOP Mall does have public transportation, but the town center and the town center up even in by me in Collegeville, there's no public transportation. And that's because people out here and in KOP are fearful of riffraff coming from the city out to the burbs. Now that's not my language, that's theirs. Okay. I'm not saying I don't necessarily agree with that, but there is a fear there of people. Al, you had said it, a fear of the unknown. And so people aren't going to want to do something that's out of their comfort zone. People aren't comfortable with being uncomfortable. Some of us are, most of us unfortunately aren't. And that's what I'm afraid of in terms of how is that going to work with that group. And I feel like that group is a majority with this specific fan base.
Well, at the end of the day, they're just going to have to pick their poison, whether or not, again, I think, how many times have we gone into an event dreading it, and then all of a sudden come out on the other end and be like, yeah, that wasn't that bad.
I hope it works. I hope it works. I'm just very skeptical, and I'm honestly very scared of it because I just feel like a lot more can go wrong than go right.
I hope it's a way. Ernie Avenone said it in the chat. That area right now is desolate. I hope it becomes a positive in that it cleans that area up, brings life to it, and cleans up the rail system, cleans up the public transportation, at least in that specific area, because it needs a cleaning. It needs a deep cleaning.
And
Rendell did a great job of cleaning Philadelphia when he was the mayor years ago, and it feels like ever since then it's kind of slowly but surely just deteriorated. Hopefully, we can get it back.
Yeah, and like you said, if they're going to put it in where the public transportation is going to be the number one way to get down there, they're going to have to make an investment in SEPTA in cleaning all that up. There's no question. And like you said, they've got 6 or 7 years to figure it out exactly how they're going to do it.
Listen, Cobb's Creek is getting millions of dollars to renovate a golf course in the middle of West Philly, so I'm sure they're going to be able to get the money to put up a friggin' arena for the 76ers.
Yeah, I mean, even if they just put some lots up around around the arena or in within a block or two, even that would help. But to just not even address parking and just say, well, whatever's already out there, you'll find a spot. If not, then go to SEPTA. That gives SEPTA the initiative to, the city to give the initiative to boost SEPTA by not providing those parking spots, because now their public transportation system has to. There's no choice from taxpayers but to invest in it.
I don't think you're giving enough credit to the people who are planning this, in the fact that, again, there's time, but I don't think the Sixers are building that type of an arena if there's not at least some sort of parking plan in place that they just haven't. Again, they're massaging I took the words there, these Chinatown residents into this arena.
So you're wrong for that.
No, Ernie said it.
Ernie said it in the chat.
Ernie, you're wrong for that, bro.
But I'm saying
we're in the business of uplifting people on this show. They can't say
we're building the arena here and we're also building a parking garage here, parking garage here, parking garage here right away. That stuff will come later.
I hope you're right, man. I hope it works. God willing, I'm still here and I'm still having these tickets when it happens. I'm just very nervous about it.
Yeah, well, the thing
there's better places that they can put it.
What you should be worried about is the Joel Embiid extension. Okay.
Well, he'll still be here by.
Yeah, well, probably on one leg. All right, but listen, that'll do it for tonight's episode. We will, like I said, we will be talking Phillies next week as we get ready for the playoffs. Eagles and Tampa Bay this weekend, and then the Sixers right around the corner. So we got a lot on the horizon. But until then, we're going to drop that beat.
Flyers preseason.